Well, once again, thank you guys so much for coming to the Big Muddy Speaker Series. And we're really excited tonight because Mary Culler, our dear friend at Stream Teams United, is coming to share stories about Paddle Mow, which has been going since 2016. And it's hosted by Stream Teams United, which you'll tell us about Stream Teams United too. Yeah, good. I'll let her fill you in on the details, but Missouri River Relief is part of Stream Teams United, along with many, many other organizations statewide. So it's something we're really proud to be a member of. And Paddle Mow is something we're really proud to be able to help out with a little bit. This year is exciting because it's a slightly different course than it usually is. And that's always fun. And even though it probably makes Mary tear her hair out a little bit trying to come up with new logistics, but it's awesome. So the event is 5 days on the Missouri River. And how many people here have done Paddle Mow before? Cool. Awesome. So later, maybe we'll ask you for stories about it after Mary tells us some stories. But Mary, we're ready for you. Come on up. So
that one.
This is Mary Culler, the director of Stream Teams United. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, my mic is on. Great. And Steve, my presentation, do I pull it up here? Escape.
Sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. Okay, yeah, so Steve asked me, or asked you all one of the questions I was going to ask you, and what former participants do we have out here? So I saw a few. That's great. While he's pulling that up, I'd like to say being here tonight was on my bucket list because this is where I had my bachelorette gathering. And, so coming back here, this is Les Boudoirs, is, beautiful place, beautiful river. And this is where bachelorette parties and academia can converge. So it's just great to be here with you tonight. Okay, like Steve said, my name is Mary Culler and I serve as the director of Stream Teams United. We are a staff of 2. So here on this slide, I can introduce you to our other staff member, Ashley Packwood. And yes, so Ashley is a remote office out of Ozark, Missouri, and I'm remote office out of Northeast Missouri. So between the 2 of us, we cover the entire state, right? No. But I will share a little bit about Stream Teams United. But one of the points that I wanted to make with this slide is that it takes an incredible team to do Paddle Mow. And that team is just much, much larger than the Stream Teams United staff. Thank you, Steve. Okay, so Stream Teams United. Like I said, again, Ashley and I are just a small part of what Stream Teams United is. It formed in 1999, and so I know most people in this room are probably familiar with the Missouri Stream Team program. The Missouri Stream Team program was founded in 1989, so 10 years before our organization. So remember that date, 1989, it's going to be important later in the presentation. So what happened was 10 years after the forming of the Stream Team program, teams were popping up all around the state, and there was this idea, oh, these stream teams should know each other. They should communicate with each other. They should try to collaborate. And how about trying to collaborate within their own watershed? And so that's the concept behind Stream Teams United, is trying to bring these Missouri stream teams together within the watershed level. And so currently we are a coalition of 22 stream team associations located throughout the state of Missouri. And a stream team association is simply 2 or more stream teams within a watershed that are working together. So the stars on this map are all of the stream team associations. Some of these stars or organizations are their own formally incorporated 501c3s. Some of them are just stream team volunteers that just get together and do cleanups or water quality monitoring. So we call these members, or they could be called affiliates. They're not really chapters, so we don't have any governing authority over these associations, but our board is interesting in its makeup in that a member of each of these associations is on our governing board. So they do have some authority over Stream Teams United. So we exist as a nonprofit partner to the Stream Team program, and we help by providing statewide communications, collaborating with these groups, working on various grant projects, and also we help serve as a lead in advocacy for the Stream Team program. So I'm going to talk on just real quick about two little projects that we work on. And one is the AmeriCorps program. And so Stream Teams United, we started this in late 2019. And since that time, we've hosted with partner Stream Team associations. We've hosted 18 full-time members and 4 summer members, so a total of 22. And I see 2 of them sitting here in this room, and you all did not know that you're going to be part of the presentation, but there you are. So yeah, so of those 22, we've had 4 that have been able to serve for Missouri River Relief. And the main goal of that AmeriCorps program has been to try to help connect youth with nature and water science education. So they worked a lot on helping to develop Missouri River Relief's education program. And Laura started right before we knew what COVID was and served during COVID. And then Anna continued to serve during that time. But they've been instrumental in helping River Relief out in their education program these last few years. So yeah, thank you all. Oh. Yes. And one of the reasons I wanted to, yeah. So, cheers. So we do have openings, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, is that there are currently openings at River Relief for a summer position and a full-time position, and the deadline is April 28th, I believe, currently. So if you know, can be of any age, they just have to be 18 or older. But if you know, an undergrad that's looking for something to do for the summer, or someone that's graduating, point them in this direction. Okay, related to stream advocacy, and this is another timely thing because we have this coming up next Tuesday. One of the things that Stream Teams United does in our advocacy program, we started 2 years ago in 2021, it's hosting a Clean Water Day at the Missouri State Capitol. And it's an opportunity to provide stream teams an opportunity to come visit with their representatives, their elected officials. And we also have been recognizing various representatives or senators that have been sponsoring positive legislation as it relates to water. And so that's helping to make some contacts, and just, we want to highlight the positive that's going on. And I'd like to thank Emily Tracy Smith, who's our board member, and Tom Borzig's here. They're going to be there next week. And so really appreciate their help with putting that on.
Is the event at the Capitol now?
This is, so next Tuesday, April 18th, we'll be there from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the 3rd floor rotunda. Yes, yes. And we started this, our organization had a goal to start this in 2021. We know what happened January 6th of 2021. So when we did this, we've been kind of easing into how we do this. It's been invitation only. Then we've opened it up to all stream teams. So now we're kind of opening it up to, well, people in the river community that we trust. Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about the topic for tonight, paddle mow. So is there anybody in the crowd that this is completely new to? Like you haven't heard about paddle mow before hearing it? Okay, so most people I think have heard a little bit about this. Okay, so we're at paddlemow.org, and we also have a Facebook group at Paddle Mow. Okay, so before we talk about Paddle Mow the trip or Paddle Mow the program that Stream Teams United hosts, let's talk a little bit about just paddling in general and paddling in Missouri. Okay, so this is a photo that I think I got from the James River Basin Partnership down in Springfield, the James River in 1907. So we know people have been paddling our rivers for at least 100 years, but we all know the indigenous people were paddling and using our rivers for a long, long time before Europeans floated or paddled the rivers. But
Can you tell us about those hats that we're wearing?
I really can't. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we'll go back to this. This is Galena, Missouri, which I'm skipping ahead, but we hosted the first Paddle Mow James this year, and our group is at Galena. So the James River has historically in Missouri been a popular, floating paddling destination. Okay, so before I get too far into this, I want to talk about what the difference is between a float trip and a paddle trip. Okay, so my background is in fisheries research. I used to collect a lot of data, work on publications and so forth. When people talk about paddle mow and talk about it as a float trip, I just get a little bit hesitant about that because I think there's a real difference. So I think from a researcher standpoint, I'd like us to talk about this looking at the data, okay? And so as a researcher, you look at quantitative data, which is numeric data that you collect, and you look at qualitative data, which is like descriptive data. And I've got a few researchers here in the crowd, so just go along with me on this for a while. Okay, so on a float trip, this is some quantitative data that you might try to collect to determine are you on a float trip or are you on a paddle trip? Okay, so first with the quantitative data, I know that's a little bit small for the people in the room. First, you might collect what's the number of people on the river per stream mile, okay? And so you can report that as number of people per mile. And you could look at that as an average or a maximum, okay? You take that number and then you calculate the proportion of well-behaved people on the river. Okay, and that's the number of well-behaved people per mile divided by the total people per mile. That's reported as a percentage. Okay. And then the third is the tonnage of aluminum cans or single-use plastics found per mile within 24 hours after the trip, reported as tonnage trash per mile. Okay. Good quantitative data. We're going to get a publication out of this, Emily and Rob, okay? Qualitative data, okay? And nod your head if you've had this experience. As a river steward, did you feel annoyed or disgusted after your trip? Do we need to mobilize the League of Watershed Guardians or another stream team to now clean up? Brian Waldrop, if you're watching, we know you're there for us. Okay, and the last one, do you now have a lot to explain to your kids? Okay. So if you answer yes to any of those qualitative data questions that you're disgusted, there needs to be a cleanup, or you have a lot to explain to your kids, pretty good indicator you've been on an Ozarks float trip. Okay. And this is just important to me as we start talking about what paddle mow is, because I want to try to prove to you tonight that paddle mow is much more than a float trip, and it's much more than a paddle. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about what it is, how did it start, why host it, and why continue it, the team that makes it possible, quotes from famous and not so famous participants, not as famous participants, the program of paddle mow, some behind the scenes stories, how you can participate in some Missouri River Basin trivia. Okay, so like Steve said, it began in 2016, and the original paddle mow route is the last 100 miles of the Missouri River, which I'm sure this group is aware that the Missouri River is the longest river in North America. Many people think it's the Mississippi, but after going on paddle mow, they learn that it's the Missouri. But over 5 days, traveling from Hermann to New Haven, the first day is 16 or 17 miles, 25-ish miles to Klondike, 27 to St. Charles, 18 to Pelican Island, Sioux Passage, and the final 12 to Columbia Bottom Conservation Area, and the last mile through the confluence of the Mississippi, and so people get to float 1 mile on the Mississippi River. And so that was the traditional route that we did in 2016 through 2021, and we switched things up a little bit last year, which I'll talk about in a bit. Okay, so that's basically when we talk about paddle mow, what it is. We've expanded it to other parts of the state. I'll get into that in a little bit. But how did it start? Okay, so it goes back to 2015 with the previous executive director that was in my position, Holly Neal, who was also from Southwest Missouri, and my hometown is Springfield. So I knew Holly when I was an undergraduate. She was a graduate student at Southwest Missouri State University. So I knew Holly back when I was in college, but in 2015, she was serving as the executive director of Stream Teams United. And there was a concept to basically look at doing some type of paddling event as a fundraiser, as a way to connect people to rivers. And a couple of people that were really integral in the formation of Palmo were Dan and Connie Burkhart with Magnificent Missouri. Dan and Connie are advocates for the last 100 miles of the Missouri River corridor and advocates for the Katy Trail corridor. And so they actually sponsored Holly and this individual here. If you know him, this is Rob Hunt. And Holly went on to work for the Nature Conservancy, and Rob Hunt just actually started with the Nature Conservancy as well as the Director of Resilient Waters for Missouri. So these two now with the Nature Conservancy, but they went and floated Paddle Georgia, which is sponsored by Georgia River Network. And so if you look at the mission of Georgia River Network, it's very similar to Stream Teams United. Georgia River Network was founded in 1998, and they serve as the voice of Georgia's rivers, the hub that connects people to rivers, watershed groups, related resources, and other members of the network so they can be effective advocates. And then they are a statewide watchdog on water policy and advocacy. So, you know, very, very similar to what Stream Teams United does, but just in Georgia. And so they went on Paddle Georgia, which I think was a 7-day trip, and brought back what they learned and then helped basically organize the first Paddle Mo. And I know there are a lot of other people involved. We have Diane Orley here. I'm sure Diane was involved in some of those early discussions, as well as our board members. And I'm sure.
About what my job.
Okay, what was Diane Orley's job? The gearing. Yes. Okay, so that's how Paddle Mo started. Before we get into some of the stories about Paddle Mo, just talking more about paddling, and I have a list here of Facebook groups basically in Missouri and how many followers they have. And the basic point of this is that, you know, there are a lot of people interested in paddling in Missouri. You look at some of these groups, you know, the MR340, 10,000 people. And I know these numbers are growing by thousands each year because I updated this slide from like a year and a half ago, and several of these groups are they're growing by thousands each year. Mo kayaking, almost 54,000 followers. Missouri kayakers, 9,000. Mid-Mo kayak, 5,000. You know, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a lot of people in Missouri interested in paddling, or people that come from out of state to paddle. Which we know, if you've ever been on one of those float trips on the Niagara or the Current, you know that there's a lot of people that are interested in paddling. So why, as a river stewardship, river conservation organization, does it make sense for us to kind of, you know, work with or try to connect to these paddlers? Because you could probably debate this as well. You know, is there too much use on some of our rivers? And is that just causing some problems for aquatic habitat, or leaving behind too much trash that then stream teams have to go pick up after, you know? But if you think about all these tens of thousands of people, if we could introduce them to what the stream team program is and try to inspire them to take at least one positive action, maybe that action is, participating in a local cleanup or growing native plants, then, you know, I think we would basically be helping to build that community of river stewardship throughout the state. When you also look at these numbers, you know, Mo kayaking, 54,000 followers, there's probably a good percentage of those that have paddled a lot of Ozark streams, but have never been on the Missouri River. So with Paddle Mo, one of the original goals was, you know, to try to introduce people out to the Missouri River. It flows across our entire state, hugely important waterway in the United States, but the majority of people look at it and, you know, have that fear factor. So that was a goal, try to help get this large paddling community out there, and also maybe introduce, you know, more people to paddling. So why do we paddle mow? Like I said, from an organization standpoint, because as an organization, our mission is not to encourage paddling in general. Our mission is education, advocacy, stewardship for Missouri rivers and streams. We want to see the resource growing. So through Paddle Mow, we help promote the Missouri Stream Team program. We promote Missouri as the Great River State, which is something that our organization helped with back in 2012, was getting a Senate resolution to basically give Missouri an additional state slogan, that of the Great River State. Everyone knows Missouri as the Show Me State. So our organization worked to have the slogan of the Great River State. You don't hear it a ton, but we try to promote that as much as we can. Again, provide an opportunity for people to connect to Missouri's waterways. And for some, introduce them to paddling on the Missouri specifically. Paddle Mow, which we'll talk about, and Diane got to this with her comment on gear wrangling, is Paddle Mow helps break down the barriers for people to experience a multi-day river trip, because it provides all the group support you need. You basically just need to show up with your boat, with your gear. If you don't have a boat, we can help you find one. If you don't have a tent, we can help you find one, but all the logistics are planned, your ground crew, your food is covered. So you don't have to spend the time trying to figure out the logistics, figure out where to camp, and you don't need to have your own support crew. So we do have a lot of people that sign up that are individuals, and so, that I think that's a big part of this. It breaks down those barriers for people to experience this really awesome multi-day trip without having to do a lot of the legwork themselves. While we're on the river, we provide a lot of education, and I'm going to talk about some of the programs we do. Again, we're hoping to inspire paddlers for conservation, build the community of river stewards in our state. This also serves as a fundraiser for Stream Teams United. As a nonprofit, we kind of have to try to be sustainable. We're not obviously looking to become wealthy through this event, but just to become sustainable. And the last three, I think, are just as important, really. And that's that it's fun. And I'm the coordinator. I've heard that it's fun, but I have fun running around behind the scenes, like dealing with the craziness. So I can only imagine how much fun it is to participate. But time in nature is healthy. We know that. Being outside is good for your body, and it's even better for your mind. And then I think through Paddle Mow, we're also helping to create lasting memories for some people, a potentially life-changing experience. And I would only say a potentially life-changing experience because of some of the things people have told me or some of the quotes that they've told me. So at this point, I want to just kind of pause and have people think in their heads, just a very general statement of why are you here? And I know that's really general, and Laura's looking at that's a good question to ask yourself in any situation. It's just good to ask yourself, why am I here? Okay, so why are you guys here tonight? Is it the good wine? Is it the fellowship? Is it because you're interested in the Missouri River? Because you care about the Missouri River? Right, I know. Anyway, okay. So no, I would say it's because in general, you're interested or care about the Missouri River. The good wine is a perk, and getting to see our river friends is another perk. Because I'm kind of getting back to this next slide has a lot of text, but getting back to, as a river conservation organization, what is our goal and what do we want to see? And so I just thought of, my dream, my vision for the Missouri River, because the Missouri River, as you know, is one of the most highly altered river systems in the United States. And there's no going back to the river that it was. We've changed it permanently. But what would be some positive things that I would like to see that I think maybe we would want to see? And so first, these are just a few. It's not all inclusive, but restoration of endangered species and a healthy ecosystem where all users see the value of native species protection and see the value of that native fish community. I know River Relief is working hard to educate youth so that they are aware of these species. But there's always a lot of conversations of, now are these species important? Well, yes. So moving towards where all users see the value of native species. Having room for the river, we saw the Great Flood of 2019. And I think slowly there are some wheels turning with our decision makers that are realizing we can't just keep on constricting the river in every community. But we need to start allowing the river to have some of that room that it once had. And so, management of the floodplain to allow the floodplain to actually flood, and some nature-based solutions so that we can kind of step back from that encroachment upon the river. And then, it's a very important drinking water source, and it's important for transportation. Again, it's a destination where people can experience nature, find adventure, and a sense of solitude, wilderness, and peace. And so that last one, it's a destination. That's one that is growing. You can definitely see that it's growing through the 340. It's growing through paddle mow. It's growing through outfitters that are on the Missouri, whereas people didn't used to, or I would say people, a lot of people didn't used to think about going out on the Missouri River just to paddle. But that community has definitely been growing. In Missouri, oh gosh, the last decade, I think the 340 has a lot to do with that. Okay, so that's just kind of from a resource perspective, some good things for the river. But on the topic of why do we paddle mow and continue it, I'm going to switch gears now to talk about what the impact is on the individual. And so with the last slide, I was kind of getting at, public awareness and having a more engaged paddling community, river community is important to all those things we just talked about. It's important to endangered species management, floodplain management, drinking water quality. So having that, engaged members of society is important. But there's also, I feel, with what we're doing with paddle mow, a very important impact on individuals, which may not be the reason I got into river ecology, but I think nonetheless, it's very important and beneficial. So I'm going to share a few quotes. So this slide is basically in paddle mow, we have people journal before they get on the water the first day, and then journal the last day. And so I pulled out just a few quotes. So here's one that was from 2018, "The trip that landed magic in my heart and soul." And that was we had a younger paddler from the YMCA in Ferguson that was able to join us. It was a phenomenal head and heart opening opportunity to connect with nature, amazing folks who care about our environment, and a wonderful group of folks who host, educate, participate, and celebrate one heck of a paddling adventure. Okay, this next one, I was like, I wasn't aware of this until I heard this quote, but it was my first time tent camping, my first time on a river kayaking, which after I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, we don't recommend that. Please get some river experience before you come on our trip. But it was a big adventure, and that's what I wanted in my life.
Mary,
Yes.
I would like to point out the sun is setting out here, beautiful sunset. It's setting right over the Missouri River.
We have a beautiful sunset.
It's nice enough to put shades up so we can get the sun right in our face.
Yes. Yes.
Appropriate.
Beautiful. So that goes right into the next quote: "An amazing ecosystem far beyond anything I ever did." Laura, is that what you just said? Thank you, Laura. You can do the two. Okay. Yeah. So wow, the trip really changed our perspective on what it's like to paddle the river. We were surprised at how little traffic there was, how safe we felt, and how beautiful the river was. We gained appreciation for the importance of conserving water quality and wildlife, both unique native species and the migratory birds. The river seems underutilized as a recreational resource. And last one, Best paddle of my life so far. I now know that the Missouri is not deadly but fun, provides our drinking water, has many different fish, birds, and it's just a blast. Loved every minute of it. Loved all the leaders and volunteers. Best trip ever. Okay, so when we talk about what keeps this going, quotes like that, if you've ever written a quote like that, thank you, because by the time we get to the end of it, I'm like, oh, why are we doing this? Okay, so this keeps me going. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the support crew, because again, Ashley and I definitely can't do this by ourselves. It is a big team effort. And so we have a lot of different nonprofits that are involved. Of course, Missouri River Relief is a great partner, and I'll talk about the others, but we have several stream team associations and the Alpine Shop out of Kirkwood as well. Okay, so Missouri River Relief. Great partner, and obviously Paddle Mo fits in very well with their mission to connect people to the Missouri River. And so River Relief has served as our motorized support boat, and we've had a handful of different volunteers from River Relief. Mr. Sadish and Mr. Barrow and Patty, and this gentleman, he graced us with his presence very much. So thank you, Steve. And they've, in addition to the motorized boat, also provided some education off the river or on the river as well. Okay, our lead on-water educators and guides, Bill and Jody Miles with Earth's Classroom. And if you're not familiar with Earth's Classroom, they're a 501c3, also started in 1999, located out of Rosebud, Missouri. Bill is a phenomenal paddler and one of the highest level American Canoe Association instructors that you can have, but he does a great job instructing paddlers, and his wife Jody is a phenomenal educator as well. And so they Jody is normally in the lead boat, and if she's not sharing a canoe with Bill, he is somewhere else intermixed with the group, but they provide a lot of the on-water education, and they're also 340 veterans, so they have a lot of experience on the Missouri River. Okay, Eric Otto is the president of Earth's Classroom and also works for Missouri State Parks. So he is also one of our core support team members, and he's normally the sweep paddler to make sure that nobody gets left behind. And again, you know, Paddle Mo is not a race. So we could also talk about the difference between the 340 and Paddle Mo. One of the big ones is we go a lot slower and we don't float at night. We're about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then we're off the water. So you will not get left behind though. Okay, Perry Whitaker is a phenomenal paddler, and he works at the Alpine Shop in Kirkwood, but he's retired from his first profession and has also served as the state director of the American Canoe Association. So he teaches paddling. So the thing I'm pointing out here is that our on-water crew, they all have a level of certification or education related to paddling. Most of our on-water crew, they are American Canoe Association instructors, and also have specific like first aid wilderness training and so forth, or swift water rescue training. So they have skills and education to both, you know, if they see somebody paddling not correctly, they can help direct them in the right way. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about our ground crew, Brian Waldrop, if you're watching. So again, we've had a lot of people that have helped. So when I was making this, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to name everybody, but I'm just going to pull out a few that I go back to as our core team in the 5 years that I've been organizing this. But Brian is works for the Missouri Department of Conservation for their Stream Team program out of the St. Louis region, and he is doing Stream Team stuff, if not daily, you know, daily. Let's put it that. But super solid individual, has helped me so many times, but he's one of our core, normally ground crew members. And sometimes if we can figure out a way to put the ground crew on the water for a day, they get to do that. Sarah Wright is works for the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and also one of our repeat ground crew members. And Bernie Arnold here in front, and this is actually Sarah. Oh no. What did I do? Okay, there we go. Press the wrong button. Sarah's in the back, but Bernie Arnold here in the front is a longtime Stream Team volunteer out of the St. Louis region and has removed thousands and thousands of tires out of the Merrimack River watershed. But those three, I always say Brian, Bernie, and Sarah are very dependable, solid crew members to help get that gear down the river. And so that's a question people ask sometimes, like, what happens with my gear? Well, we put it in a enclosed trailer, sometimes several, and move it to the next campsite. So no one is having to take all their camping gear in their canoe. You just take on the water, what you need for the day, like a dry bag, water, sunscreen, etc. Okay, a couple others. Diane, you're here. So just Stream Teams United board members, and we have Diane Orley, who's has been involved several years, and Mr. Boot Barrow, who's actually the Stream Teams United president at the moment. And Susan Rassman here, out of the Rolla area, and Emily Tracy Smith there, all board members, which is very helpful because they have the ability to drive vans if needed, you know. So Emily's done that, and Susan's done some of that as well. And then sometimes we've had past paddlers that have done the trip, and then they've said, I want to be a full-time ground crew member, which I don't think I've ever turned anybody down that says, I just want to help you guys on the ground crew. And so we've had a couple individuals, I know you can't see these folks, but this is Sarah and Kathy, and I think they've showed up to some Missouri River Relief events, and Jackie is out of Kansas City area, and she helped on our first Kansas City area trip that I'll talk about here in a little bit, and provided security overnight. And she sent me a message in the morning that said something to the effect, I had a horrible night, I didn't sleep at all, and I'm going home, you know, but so thank you, Jackie, because yeah, that's the ground crew role there. And then Ashley Packwood, again, who is our other Stream Teams United employee. And we're lucky that she brings along her husband, Andrew. And so they are a great team. Again, we are normally off the water, moving things, coordinating the next step, the next meal. It's really a fun time to be on the ground crew because you kind of see when things break on. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. But yeah, there's always something that breaks on paddle mill, and that's half the fun. That's half the fun of like with the ground crew is like, what unexpected thing or what thing is Mary gonna drop that's gonna cause a problem? And we deal with it. We keep on going. But this was Ashley's birthday, actually. So she got to go on the water last September in Kansas City. Okay, and then yours truly, again, it's fun. I will not lie, this is a challenging thing to put together. 5 days on the water, which is for me about 8. It's a challenge, but it's fun, and it's a good time. And every once in a while I get on the water as well. Okay, so that's our great team. I think they're awesome. I will mention we could not do this as an organization without having some sponsors and contributions. I was talking to Deb a little bit earlier about the registration price. We try to keep the registration price as low as we can to be able to cover the event expenses during those 5 days, not including any of our Stream Teams United staff time. Now, if everything goes well, we will maybe come out a little bit ahead. Most of the times we just kind of break even on covering the during event expenses. So the sponsorships that we receive can help turn this into a fundraiser for Stream Teams United to support some of our efforts throughout the remaining part of the year. So a big shout out to these. And again, I will, want to give a lot of thanks to Dan and Connie Burkhart, who helped form this and have continued to help support us, and also Lotsie and Rick Holton and their support. So different sponsors throughout the year. So this is the trailer that Bass Pro actually purchased for us in 2018, my first year. And so this is one of the trailers that we use to help move that gear downriver. Okay, going to switch directions here and talk about a little bit like the program that is Paddle Mill, because we've established it's not a float trip. Okay, if anybody's like, I'm going to go on that float trip, right? You got to paddle, not a float trip. Okay, now we could call it a paddle trip, but there's a lot more to it than just being a paddle trip. And I just like this sign because which direction are we going? Pick one. Pick one. It's right. You're not going to be wrong there. Okay. Oh, sorry. Back one. This is the quote from the famous person. And I don't see Mr. Boot in the room, but I promised you guys a quote from a famous person. So Mr. Boot Barrow, and this is a quote I've heard him say a couple times: safety first, last, and always. And that is safety first. So part of our program is river safety. So paddle mow is sanctioned by the American Canoe Association. One of the requirements is wearing a life jacket on the river. And so we, you know, it's a requirement. And the more I get into this field, you know, we see it. You know, there will be drownings in Missouri this summer. You know, it's sad to say, but there will be a dozen, maybe, I don't know, maybe more. Yeah, well, yeah. So, I mean, absence of a life jacket is what's happening when there's drownings. Okay, so I'm guilty of it. I know I grew up in the Ozarks. When I was in high school, college, I was not wearing a life jacket on the Niangua, right? Okay, but I've learned a lot. So it's just important. So please, you know, help spread the word about that with your family and friends, because it's important. But river safety. So this is Bill Miles' first day before we get out there on the Missouri River. You know, a lot of people, I would say, we do have past participants, but a lot of people, this is the first time on the Missouri River. So we talk about river navigation, how to read the channel, how to stay in the channel, and what all the different markings on the sides of the rivers mean. Okay, but past the safety first portion, there's just a lot of education that goes on. So just a clip of Bill on the water providing information, education, and some of the past paddlers could share what Bill and Jody share about. But they know a lot about all the aquatic and terrestrial species out there. So sharing a variety of information. So we've had a lot of different partners for education from our state agencies. Earth's Classroom, like I mentioned, is key to the on-water, Missouri River Relief, Missouri River Bird Observatory, USGS, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And I'll show a few more photos of that. But talking about, you know, birds, macroinvertebrates, river ecology, geography, history of the muddy Missouri, first capital, German heritage, Native American history, paddle trails, floodplains, Lewis and Clark, all those things. So it's a really diverse amount of education, and we try to change things every year. So, you know, we've had the Department of Natural Resources out there talking about mushrooms and mussels, and Missouri River Bird Observatory. Now Laura works for MRBO, so exciting. Yeah. So Paige Whittick came out. What's that? Oh, okay, right. Okay. That's we'll talk. Okay. This one you can't really see very well, but there's a raptor. There's a raptor here. And so this was the USDA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service brought out some birds of prey on part of the Big Muddy Wildlife Refuge. And Rob Jacobson from USGS, outstanding presentation here on Pelican Island. Yeah, how's that for a classroom, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and this was one of my favorites. I think this was maybe 2019. We had, this is Joshua Bennett, and he's Native American, and he actually serves as a model for Brian Haynes paintings. So if you've seen a Brian Haynes painting, which I know you featured Brian Haynes before, Joshua might have been the model that Brian used for his paintings, but he does presentations and brought along some of his friends, which are like French reenactors. And so they brought their birch canoe from, I think, Wisconsin down and just kind of met our group on the river. And he provided just an awesome presentation. Okay, 2020 was the 30th anniversary of the Katy Trail. So we met in Tree Lore and at the Mercantile there with Magnificent Missouri, and had some information about the Katy Trail history. Carol David with the Missouri Prairie Foundation sharing about the importance of historical Missouri prairie, and what a leader for conservation that Carol is. This is Dr. Mark Morgan. You may not be able to see him as well. It's kind of far away, but sharing about Asian carp, right? Eat more carp. And he actually made some carp taco meat for us, and we dined on that. And so that was awesome. What's that?
Where was that?
Where was it?
The building I was in.
Oh, okay. So this is the pavilion at Klondike Park in St. Charles County.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then 2021, there was a big effort to get information out about plastic pollution. So we had some speakers talk about plastic pollution. And then last but not least, Steve from Missouri River Relief has shared about the Missouri River, and Kristen has also been out there before as well. Okay, so music, we like music as well. So we typically have 1 or 2 musicians show up at different parts, normally in the evening, and usually the last evening or maybe several evenings we'll have music around a campfire. So this is a shot of the Missouri River downstream from Hermann. I believe this is between Hermann and New Haven. And I just kept a few pictures in here, but I have so many pictures. I had to stop because I was breaking PowerPoint. Okay, so just a few things on the COVID years, because sometimes I get asked like, well, we used to do this and why don't we do this anymore? And I will say, honestly, like the Great Flood of 2019, which was a big deal for the Missouri River, and COVID, also a big deal, did change things a little bit with basically different people we work with as far as like our vendors, restaurants. Some of them don't exist anymore or had to sell off some of their, business. So this next picture, if you would have shown me this in 2019, I'd been like, what am I doing? This is a photo of me, if you can't tell. So this was just our current river trip in 2020, and I was passing out granola bars. And I guess this was the safe way to do it, right? Mask, gloves. And I think some of the paddlers thought that was a little bit funny, but we did what we had to do. So main point of this, when COVID hit, it was like, oh, can we do this? How can we do this? We went ahead and had the trips in 2020, 2021. We just adapted. You can see these folks were great at social distancing and mask wearing, and we practiced good hand washing, and this is Boot Barrow demonstrating some great hand washing techniques. And food as well. And so I was proud of our team because it was a difficult situation. It was difficult for everybody, and I was proud of our participants because we didn't get any arguing back and forth. We just said, okay, this is how we're going to handle it, and we did it, and we were able to move forward. Okay, so yeah, just repeat after me. No super spreader events, right? Okay, we did it. So I think we're getting back to, we'll see what happens, but it'll be, if you want to wear a mask, you can, but we're hopefully past needing to change how we do everything. Right. Okay, so after a few years of doing the Missouri River trip, our board and other people started to say, well, when are you going to do this on another stretch of the river? So the first thought was to do something in the Ozarks, and we thought about doing something on the Big Piney, but we basically eventually landed on the Current River as one of our nation's first national scenic riverways, which is, it's a gem of a river. It's just a world-class river. It's also one of those, if you floated in June or July, you may come back and be like, there's too many people. I'm never doing that again. I'm never going on a Saturday or Sunday down to the Current. So our trip's in the fall, and it is a world of difference. And so the first Paddle Ozarks, it's basically 25 miles from Cedar Grove access down to Round Spring. We stayed at Current River State Park. Current River State Park, the lodge had some issues. So it was like, well, this is the first and last Paddle Ozarks at Current River State Park. The next year we went to Montauk. The next year we went to Echo Bluff. And then this last year we found a really great private facility called Big Rock Candy Mountain near Cedar Grove. And yeah, so that's where we're going back to this year. But the Current River, obviously, a lot of people have been there, but a lot of people have not. So it's one that's totally worth experiencing. And we had some presentations from the LAD Foundation. I'll say the LAD Foundation was a group that gave us a seed grant to get this program started, and also had some fun education there as well. Rick Mansfield came and presented as Henry Schoolcraft. If you're not familiar with Rick, look him up. He's really fun, and he's very active in that area as well. Okay, so a quote from the Current River trip, which we started that in 2019. We've done that every year since 2019. The Stream Teams United Petaluma Ozarks journey was many things. It's hard to capture the experience in pictures and words. If ever given the chance to join one of these trips, don't pass it by. They are definitely one of a kind. So no pressure as the coordinator there, right? Okay. So 2022 was different in that, again, we were kind of asked by past participants and other organizations, you know, when are you going to do different stretches? So there was the thought to go to the James River in Southwest Missouri, which, if you're not familiar with the James River, it flows down the east side of Springfield, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri is my hometown. So this is the watershed where I had my first stream team experience, and I was a fisheries biologist on this river. So we partnered with James River Basin Partnership in the celebration of their 25th anniversary year, and did 22 miles on the James River. And that is, like I showed you that photo of the people that were out there in 1907 by Galena. This is one of the locations where people were doing these destination paddle trips in the early 1900s. And really the same stretch that we did, except for now with the dam at Table Rock, we couldn't float downstream any further. The historic trips went further downstream, but that area is now impounded. And one of the special things about working with the James River Basin Partnership is that our former Stream Teams United employee, Brooke Widmar, is now an educator there. And so we were able to work with Brooke. And, you know, there's some scenic bluffs there on the James River. Okay, and so same thing, we started thinking about a trip in the Kansas City region in about 2019. COVID hit. Mr. Boot Barrow and I did some scouting in about August of 2020, and we're ready in 2021 to start making reservations. All the things kind of fell into place, and so we hosted a 70-mile trip last September 2022. So when we think about changing routes, sometimes it is like a 2-year process, because for making reservations, we get into that like a year ahead. So it's not, it's just, you know, it takes a while to plan. And I would say each year we start planning for the September trip in October or November. So it's at least 11 months of planning. This year, or last year, we also did the confluence trip. So we just did the last 2 days of the original paddle mow. Now, doing 4 paddle mows in 1 year, we are not going to do that. In the future, it was just unique that the timing worked out with the anniversaries and going to Kansas City and so forth. And then we were back on the Current. So quote from the Current River: "This trip was absolutely spectacular, and I have already recommended it to so many family and friends. Thank you so much for an amazing experience and taking care of us so well." And so that was from some first-time participants on the Current River that had never been there. Okay, just a few stories from adventuring on the river and from behind the scenes. So these are actually my stories, just a few things that I've learned. And they're not all going to make sense, but I'll just kind of go through them. So, okay, if something smells like it's burning, it probably is. Is power steering really necessary while hauling a trailer down a hill between Hermann and New Haven? Yeah, that was a little scary. It was okay. We're here. Even if the group only has 1 mile left to go, there is still time for a bus to break down. It's true. Okay. Secure the ratchet straps daily. Important. Yes, Mr. Missouri State Highway Patrol. Yes. Okay. The Great Flood of 2019 sounds like a good time to plan a paddle, right? This is one's kind of obvious. A vehicle stuck in park is a poor ground crew vehicle. Your GIS will not work at the Cedar Grove low water crossing. So bring a map, or else you'll be driving around in the dark. Andrew was right, just dump the coffee. There's a story there. you know, and the environmentalists, we don't want to waste things. So we never have extra coffee. But then one morning in Kansas City, there was like a half container, like our industrial size coffee was half full. So I thought, well, what do we do with this? I can't dump this out because someone might want to drink cold coffee when they get to Leavenworth. So I was like, let's just put it in the van and take it. It's only like a 25-minute drive. Andrew said, I'm concerned this is going to spill. And my normal reaction is it's going to be fine. Okay. It would have been fine if the whole route to Kansas was flat, but there were hills. Okay. So anyway. Luckily, that Enterprise van did not have carpet and was like, you know, just plastic. But anyway, no. I went up a little hill and I heard this glug, 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 glug. And I was like, okay, Andrew was right. So we had to get it out. Anyway. Just dump. This is what right. That's what we're saying. Okay. Future, just dump the coffee, just dump it. Okay. And for me, you know, always have a spare, have plenty of flashlights. Diane has a lot of flashlights in her truck, which came in very handy when I lost power steering going down a hill. Leave a day earlier than you think and keep breathing, go with the flow. So that's my perspective. You know, I think if you are a participant, hopefully you have, you don't have to think about any of those things. And I've just got some group photos from our years. And if there's any folks here that want to share anything, but we've had folks from 19 US states represented since 2016 on the Missouri River trip and also the current. I combined those. There may have been someone from Florida. I can't quite confirm that. So if anybody remembers 2016, 2017, I thought I saw it, but I couldn't figure it out in our spreadsheets. 2019 was our greatest number of participants on the Missouri River. And then we kind of had a little bit of a drop off with COVID. I think I just have a couple more slides, but talking about, okay, not my perspective, but people that have been on the river, and this is really like one of their first experiences. And so this quote is from a first-time participant that had never been on the Missouri River. She had been a MR 340 ramp volunteer, now signed up for the MR 340, but says, simply amazing. The food was excellent and the pace was doable for a beginner. I felt very safe among so many capable instructors. This trip really helped me massage my fear of moving water. So went from never being on the water to she's signing up for the 340. All right. That's Hannah. Turley. Yeah, that's Hannah. Okay. And then Rejoice. This guy here waving, he's random. That was the one person that was on the current river during October. That's not in our group, but so one of the paddlers that's come on our trip and keeps on coming back, you know, says it was fantastic. The owners, the campgrounds, the food, etc. And I'll skip ahead, but I am now a part of 2 stream teams and can't wait to help clean our waterways and test our water quality to help protect our drinking water as well as the fragile ecosystem. And I love Paddle-Mo. They are my new family. So, you know, I think we get back to, we're hoping to connect with the paddlers in order that we can inspire them to be river stewards and be a part of this larger river community that's helping take action towards some of those resource concerns and improving it, but also like the individual impact that these trips are making on people is meaningful. Okay, so how can you participate? This year, we are doing just 2 trips, capital to capital for the first year, starting in Jefferson City, going to St. Charles over 5 days. And Bill and Jody Miles had done that trip years ago, so they're very familiar with that stretch. And so that's September 23rd through the 27th. Again, we'll return to the current river. If you'd like to be a full-time ground crew member, talk to me. That is a lot of running around, loading, unloading, kind of physical, but also like campground watching. If you just want to sit around at a campground all day, you know, it's kind of a job that is not too enjoyable, but has to be done. Musicians, we love music. So if there's any musicians out there that want to come play for us, I will say culinary skills, especially at the Ozarks trip, because we are in some places where catering's not convenient, or there's not a lot of options. And we're also, you know, just like everything since 2016, prices are going up. So we're trying to kind of figure out, well, if we can make a breakfast casserole and make it well, which Deb, you can tell me whether or not our breakfasts have been okay, but if we were hearing complaints, we would stop doing it, but we've heard good things of preparing a few meals ourselves. And then just help share about Paddle-Mo. We've learned the greatest way to learn about it is mouth to mouth. So invite a friend, and sponsors are key. So we always take sponsors $100 up. If you don't want to go, but you'd like to try to connect somebody to the opportunity, we provide scholarships, so you could donate to a scholarship. Okay, I think this is close to the last slide. So coming back, Missouri River Basin trivia. So you might ask, what is Missouri River Basin trivia? It's from anywhere in that 500,000 miles, 10 states, 2 Canadian provinces. A question, what Missouri River Basin town is known as the home of sliced bread? Oh, you guys, good. I was like, you guys are all from south of I-70. I'm like, the people north of I-70 know this, or north of, I think. Yeah, Chillicothe, Missouri is the home of sliced bread. Okay, what is the best thing invented in Missouri since sliced bread? What is the best thing invented in Missouri since sliced bread?
Ice cream cone.
Laura, you said you've heard this, but like, this is kind of a trick question, guys. I gave you, okay, I'm giving you a clue. Here's a clue.
Missouri stream teams.
Yes, okay. So I would argue, as my job is to be a champion of Missouri stream teams. Missouri stream teams, the best thing since sliced bread in Missouri. And Mark Van Patten here pictured, Ranger Mark Van Patten, worked for stream teams, Missouri stream teams, helped form the first stream team. He's now a ranger down at Ozark National Scenic Riverway. So he's been able to join our group on the current river, it's been really fun. You know, it's like there's over 6,000 stream teams now, and to have the gentleman that helped start the program out there to talk to our group has been really awesome the last few years.
Excuse me, it's not about cleaning up.
Yeah, so stream teams can basically pick any kind of activity. Well, no, the trip is not, we don't clean up on the river, right? No, we don't. But there are stream cleanups going on year round. Yeah. So some of the things I've done though, the people that sign up, they can join our bulletin, our Facebook. And so we're hoping that they learn about it. And then like our current river, the stream team down there is hosting their cleanups in June. So I've sent out the emails saying, okay, you guys floated this, you're invited to come back and help clean it up, or we need people to help man the stations. And so, you know, stream teams, it's a special program. It's been around since '89. And so through these trips, people can join stream teams, meet people, or existing stream teams can see each other and spend some good time together. For the sake of time, I'm not going to show this video, but if you're wanting to see, there's several videos on YouTube. This one was made in 2021 with Missouri Humanities, and I think it's probably the best one, or there's been several really good videos, but check that one out. And I think close to the last slide, thanks to the Alpine Shop, they are hosting a pint night for us in Kirkwood next Friday, the 21st. So if you're there in St. Louis, join us and you can meet some of the Paddle Mo team. But that's it. Thanks for the time tonight. And I'd invite you to come out and paddle Mo. Yep. All right, I would take any questions, or if anybody wants to share a story. Oh, go ahead.
And I'm going to chase you down with the microphone, not to intimidate you, but just so everyone can hear. So whoever has questions or stories, Deb, maybe you have a story to share. We have a question over here. Awesome.
I just want to ask, as far as ground crew, how long is a shift for a ground crew person?
Right. It could be a day. It depends on what you would want to do. Yeah, it could be a day, I would say, or a half. Depends on what. Yeah. Right. And so like the core team that I showed, like we're there the whole time. But yeah, if someone wanted to, I would say during the COVID years, like we worked really hard to not have people randomly show up. And so if someone's listening, they said, well, Mary didn't call me in 2020, it was because we could only have 50 people. And I tried to really reduce it was just going to be those 50 people. I didn't want random people showing up that could just be another carrier of the virus. But, you know, since I think that was pre-vaccine era and so forth. So to answer your question, I mean, let me know what you might want to do and we could work with you.
Other questions or stories? Deb's like, okay.
This is the best thing to get on the river with. I've done this 4 years now. And I did it the first time. I just saw it online and said I was doing it and went all by myself. And met Mary and all these wonderful people. And they take care of you. They teach you. It's just a great time. And I tell everybody to do it.
Yeah. Okay, I am curious, like, so we already saw hands of people who have done this before. I would love to see hands of people who are like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah.
So September 23rd through
Say September.
September 23rd through 27th. Now, I know I didn't talk about cost. The cost for our trips is around $100 a day. The Ozarks trips are a little bit less. So the 5-day trip on the Missouri River is $550. We do have a weekend option that's $200. So, you know, the 5-day trip has like 13 meals. We try to price it low enough. Like, I really don't think as our organization, like if we price it any lower, it wouldn't pay for itself. And out of 8 years, there's been a couple trips where the registration didn't pay for itself, you know, and so that's where those sponsors are important. But again, you know, we want to make this available to everyone. So if the money is an issue where, you know, it's going to be a barrier, come talk to me, because we do get people that want to sponsor people to help get them out on the river.
And, you know, I just want to make one more comment too, that you said already, Mary, but like the people that you pull together, the team that you pull together for Paddle Mo year after year after year are just so top notch. The educators are amazing. And some of them are sitting in this room who've done that before. You know, the skills, the paddling skills of your support team is some of the best in the state. It's just like an amazing crew of people year after year that pull this off. And I mean, Deb can speak to that. It's like, and then the people that come, I don't know how, it's just always such a great crowd of people, but it's good stuff. So any other questions? Cool. Laura's got one. Good. You have to wait for the microphone, Laura. You can do it.
So this is a really basic question, but how many people do you usually have on the river?
Sure. Okay. So I would say we would cap it at 80 participants. And then with that, there's about 10 to 12 on the river. As far as our number of crew to participants, it's about a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio. So in 2019, we had 80 participants and about 20 total ground and or water crew. And that's pre-COVID, 2 full buses plus a couple. So at that amount, 100 people, I feel like we're maxing out our camping facilities, and we're also maxing out, like, people want to actually be able to hear the presentation, and you can't do more than 80 people. I mean, we did it. If anybody was there in 2019, like, I think it worked okay, like, but no more than that. And now the last several years, though, we had less, and we were adjusting for COVID. So yeah, that would be a maxed out trip, 80 participants.
Well, Mary, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's awesome.
Okay, well, just thank you to River Relief for being a great partner in this. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, I wish we could do more. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming out tonight. And Mary, who drove.
Under 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, anything that Mary does is like a 2-hour drive,
That's true.
basically. Also, huge shout out to Braden with Les Bourgeois Bistro. Thank you. He's here every month, opening up on their closed night and making sure that the bar is open no matter what goes on. And David Owens, thank you so much for driving here twice today. Thank you guys for coming, and obviously feel free to hang out as always, and please tip your bartender. Thank you.